Hiya, hope everyone's okay again. So yeah, I'm just picking bands, rattling through their albums that I enjoy, have a bit of crack on. People seem to, or some of us seem to enjoy it anyway, so that's fine with me. And so I'm picking bands where there's not too many albums, so I can just don't waffle too much. So I'm going to look at RATT today. So yeah, RATT, big influence on us when I was growing up, particularly the guitars of Warren DeMartini and Robin Crosby. I'll come to how we came across the albums. But RATT's first debut album's an EP. It's like what we call a mini album, really, a 6-track. Now I've just checked, and the European release had 7 tracks on it. It had a track called You're in Trouble on it, which appeared on the next album, their proper debut. But the versions we had, there was 2 we had. We had one with a black and white picture, on the back of the cover. And then I got a reissue on Atlantic when they got the rights to it, and that had a kind of colour picture of the band on the back. So on this album, there's tracks, the Sweet Cheater, Tell the World, You Think You're Tough, Back for More, cover of Walking the Dog, and the track called You Got It, which I can't remember too well. I didn't listen to it that much at the time because of the production, but I think You Think You're Tough's a catchy track, and Tell the World, and they used to play those regularly live. So basically this EP, they self-funded it, I think the manager did. Then it got picked up by Atlantic, and then they make their debut album properly, and that is 1984's Out of the Cellar. Again, it's back to front, you know why. Okay, so what is to say about this album? It's one of the classic hair metal albums. You know, you've got Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue in this era. Quite Right have become very successful with Metal Health. Def Leppard have sort of started that commercial pop metal sound with Pyromania. Obviously, we've had Van Halen, and obviously this year, 1984, Van Halen will make their most sort of polished commercial record with Daily Roth, the 1984 album. So Out of the Cellar comes out into the world in that it's also the debut, or certainly the album that brings the world to the attention of the producer Beau Hill. So Beau Hill plays a big part in American hard rock. After this album comes out, obviously he produces Winger's debut. He does the 2 successful Warren albums, Dirty Rotten Filthy Stink and Cherry Pie. He does a Prison in Paradise by Europe. So what Beau Hill does, he's great at getting great guitar sounds, getting a good balance on all the sounds and frequencies. And he's good at kind of putting disguised keyboards in, cool backing vocals, getting a good polish. In actual fact, at the time he used to print his effects quite often, so he'd set his delay and reverb patches, and he'd often basically record the effects patches as the guitars were going down, and most people wouldn't do that. That means, once it's committed, you're committed. So anyway, this album, principally, blows out the box really big because of the track Round and Round, which is a kind of staple of American rock radio, and you hear it on Planet Rock all the time. It's a great riff. It's basically taking the Van Halen Unchained type of sequence, but they just put their own spin on it. And what's really successful about it, he uses what I call a major minor tonality. So the opening chord is a suspended chord to a major chord, for guitarists who know that. But then it introduces the minor version of that and goes, into another part of the fretboard. But the way that combines, it makes it happy and kind of sad at the same time. That's how I describe it in the simplest words. It's a great track. So it's kind of a curse and a blessing for RATT. It's a superb song. It's an all-time classic. It means this album sells 3 million. But in a lot of ways, RATT will never top this album. They will make a better sounding album, but they'll never have the songs that this album has. In total, this is a Rock Candy remaster. So on this, it opens with Wanted Man, which is another hit single. Interesting fact about this, I actually prefer the Robin Crosby lead break on this to the Warren DeMartini one. We'll come to Warren DeMartini in a sec. You got You're in Trouble next, that's a classic. Round and Round, In Your Direction, great track. Then if side 1 finished on the original vinyl with She Wants Money, nice Robin Crosby lead break on that. Then side 2 opened with Lack of Communication. This was in a drop D tuning, so again, sort of mirroring Van Halen's influence with that. Really cool. Good backing vocals from Juan Crucier as well on that. He is a very good backing singer. Then you got Back for More. That was a re-recording of a track on the EP. Great, another minor hit. Morning After, Another good track. Again, he uses the major minor tonality of Round and Round. Then you got I'm Insane. That's sort of a filler track, but I like it. And then it finishes off with About the Scene of the Crime. I used to love doing the backing vocals on the chorus of this with my brother when we listened to it. Yeah, so it's just a really strong record. It's easily a 9 out of 10. One of the principal successes of it is Stephen Pearcy's not the best singer, but I think in this he does make an effort. It's his debut album. We'll go into what happens with Stephen Pearcy on the next albums. I think basically Beau Hill works him hard and he gives a better performance. And then the other thing is Warren Martini. So Warren Martini at this time, when you listen to him on the EP, you can hear Promise. He arrives on this as a fully fledged beast, basically. I think the guy's barely 21 when he plays this. He's one of the great players of the 80s. He has a fantastic vibrato. Very influenced by George Lynch. He also does the sliding vibrato that George Lynch did, or jerk-off vibrato as they call it. But he's got his own spin as well. And on this, he kind of shows off a bit. He does a lot of nimble-fingered stuff. He often just shapes 4 fingers on a string. And his soloing's phenomenal. The You're in Trouble solo is awesome. Round and Round, he does a great lead break and he goes into a twin harmony with Robin Crosby. We'll talk a little bit more about him. In Your Direction, great solo, very comped. There's several takes put together, but it's pretty amazing. Back for More, does great solos on that. He does a great outro solo. He does a great outro solo on Round and Round as well. It's something I like about 80s records is when they fade out and have an outro solo. And just always listen out. If you turn up the volume, you'll get a couple of gems. Some note or little lick the guitarist will do. Morning After, another great solo. When I saw them live, they played that song. I just remember him doing a whammy dive at the start. I'm Insane, the sort of filler track, but again, he does a great solo in that. So DeMartini plays up a storm on this, and I think Robin Crosby contributes really well with his lead breaks. I think Robin Crosby lived in the shadow of Warren Martini, but he's a solid lead player. Nothing flash, but his solos made sense and fit the song. And it's that thing, it's enjoying that yin and yang thing. As I've got older, I enjoy the Robbie Crosby solos for what they are and the way they interplay with Warren Martini. So, a classic hair metal album, a classic glam metal album. So what happens next is they do Invasion of Your Privacy. This is the first RATT album I ever heard. My brother bought it. It got a great review in Kerrang. So when I first put this on, the first thing that comes blasting out of speakers is You're in Love. At the time, one of the great recorded guitar sounds, drop D tuning, really bright, chunky, with lovely delay and brightness on. This record was a real push up from the sound of Out of the Cellar. This is, it's not far off being as good as Out of the Cellar. I just think it probably lacks just a few more classics. But basically, it opens with You're in Love. Brilliant. Never Use Love. Really good track. Lay It Down. Again, one of the all-time guitarist riffs. Basically, it's their take on the Unchained Van Halen drop D riff. And bringing in what they were doing with the Round and Round riff and just taking it up a notch. It's an incredible achievement in riffing. I know it sounds crazy, but when that comes out of the speakers, the way the attack with the pick is, the way it's phrased by DeMartini. DeMartini's one of the great rhythm players of his era. Obviously, you got Van Halen start it all. He's the man. Then I would say you got DeMartini and Ronnie Latecro, Akira Takasaki, who all have great rhythm tones and do really great imaginative riffs. And then closely behind that, I would put George Lynch with great rhythm tone, and also Jakey Lee, who did some fascinating rhythms, and probably Vito Bratta of White Lion, Red Beach. I'm going on now. Yeah, but basically these guys, they could play rhythm guitar as equally as well as lead, and that meant they could write great songs. So anyway, then it goes into Give It All. That's a really good track. That's got a fantastic DeMartini solo. Side one finishes with Close to My Heart. It's a ballad. It's okay. I quite like it. It's not great. Now, interesting, side two opened with Between the Eyes, and I didn't know this, but apparently, allegedly, Night Ranger, this flagged up in the previous thread, sued them for copying the riff. I'm like, yeah, it does sound like the riff to Night Ranger. But it's a great track. Again, it's got another, I know, keep going on, fantastic DeMartini solo. He does a great slidey thing down the fretboard. There's a lovely groove on this, lovely pocket, and one thing the guitarists do, then DeMartini does, and Crosby does it, they shape the chord, so, you know, they'll play like a 2-note shape, and wah, and that's another sort of defining thing of the era, is those, what we call dyads, or double stops in guitar, and like the guitarist shaking those for a effect on riffs. Next track, What You Give Is What You Get, good track, good riff. Got Me On The Line, this is great, it's got a phone call at the start, and it says, hello, and then it comes, there's that thing, you know, the 80s thing where they'll have like a phone conversation, you know, in a song. You Should Know By Now, that's really good. That's got a call and response riff. Crosby plays one thing, DeMartini plays the other on the opposite side of the speaker. Good chorus, really good backing vocals. Then it finishes with Dangerous But Worth the Risk, which is another corker. This, when I saw them live in February of 1986 supporting Ozzy Osbourne, this was the track they came onto, and at the end of the first chorus, going into the second verse, DeMartini does a dive bomb with his trem over the 3rd fret harmonic. Obviously, guitarists will know what it is. So basically, I'd never heard Marshalls on 10 before, and he just hit this zing and just went, whoa, and I was just like, and the other thing we cool with DeMartini, he sort of had a great way on stage. He had his guitar slung just the right height, high enough to play accurately, but not high enough to look stupid. He used to sling his hip out. He just had a great presence, and Crosby was about 6'5", and he looked great. Okay, what I'd say on this album is Stephen Pearce's vocals aren't as good as on Out of the Cellar, and when you read his book, I get the impression that he started to get more interested in a lifestyle and didn't like to be maybe told what to do. And I think something RATT suffered from, and maybe this partially at the latest, partially at the door of Beau Hill. Beau Hill's brilliant at getting great sounds, and he's brilliant at making bands sound great. But I think maybe if they had a singer, a producer who would sit in a studio and make Piercy work hard, the same way Ted Templeman drove David Lee Roth and Van Halen won, the same way Mutt Lange drove Brian Johnson and Joe Elliott. That's, you know, not that Brian Johnson probably needed driving much, but I imagine Mutt Lange had some great suggestions for him. And I think, you know, that's maybe why the album's not quite as good, but it's, you know, if Out of the Cellar's a 9, I mean, it's an 8.5 to a 9. It is, if you're interested in this kind of music, you need to have the first 2 proper RATT albums. So, again, the next album, again, this is where things start to go a little wrong for the band, is a band like Motley Crue. They've done an album 82, 83, then they get a 2-year gap, 85, 87, 89. The record company's giving them a gap, obviously. Theatre of Pain time, there's issues because of Vince Neil's incarceration. But what I find interesting is, with Motley Crue, I know some people like the Theatre of Pain album, but always used to get slagged. But I think what happened with that is Crue had 2 really big hits off that, Smoking in the Boys' Room and Home Sweet Home. And as long as you had a couple of hits, it got people to your tour, you kept your name out there, and then you had another crack. And obviously Motley Crue did really well on the Girls, Girls, Girls album, and even better on Dr. Feelgood. I think Lay It Down and was a minor hit, top 40, but it wasn't a big hit. And I think Invasion of Privacy went double platinum, but they really needed a hit on this next album, Dancing in the Cover, and it didn't happen. So this album went platinum, but I think, again, it was rushed. It came out sort of October 86. And I think they... I think Invasion came out summer 85, so they probably had barely not much over 12 months to come up with this. I think the other thing is the cover as well. Cover's okay, but like the first 2 RATT album covers, like, I know they're sexist, but they're kind of classic covers of the time. This is a good album. It's my least favourite RATT album in the classic era. Starts off with Dance, that's really good. One Good Lover, pretty good. Drive Me Crazy, pretty good. Slip of the Lip, that's a great track. And Body Talk. Body Talk was used on The Golden Child, I think, the Eddie Murphy film. DeMartini's solos are mixed a bit lower, which I find frustrating. But what happens here is DeMartini starts to play differently. He's not whittling as much. He's kind of playing sort of more bluesier based stuff, and he's playing more maturely, and I like it. I just miss a lot of his Flash Fingers stuff, but he does play some cool solos on this album. Side 2 is where the album tails off. There's a track called 7th Avenue that I really like, and that's got a fantastic DeMartini solo. There's one bit where he slides into a harmonic and the note goes, whoa! And it's just amazing, like his touch. And the last track, Enough Is Enough's got a good hook. I'm thinking the opening vocals really sleazy from Piercy. Like, I like the way you move when you undress me. I like to take it off. Yeah. Sleazy man. Yeah, it's a kind of 6 out of 10. It's just missing sort of quality tracks. The production's good. It just doesn't have as much zing as the other ones. So that still goes platinum. Again, then this album comes out 2 years later, so I have more time to do this. 1988's Reach for the Sky. There's some problems with this. They basically use Mike Stone as a producer. And things don't work out with Piercy's vocals, so they bring Beau Hill back in. I prefer this album to Dance in the Cover. I think it's a good album. City to See, I Want a Woman, Wakel Jr., that was a minor hit. Don't Bite the Hand That Feeds, that's a great riff. I Want to Love You Tonight, great solo by DeMartini. Then side two's got No Surprise on it, that's a great track. The last two tracks, What's It Gonna Be, What I'm After, good tunes. DeMartini's playing more nimble-fingered again on this, and that's why I've always liked it from this guitar solo point of view. But I think the writing's more consistent on this, so, it's definitely a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8. Again, the production's probably better than Dance in the Cover. It's just a shame that, I'm not knocking Beau Hill because he's my favourite producer of all time. It's just a shame that they didn't have, someone to bring a new dimension in. They tried that with this album, Detonator, which is from 1990. I think they played the Mayfair on this tour, but you could see by that point they were looking pretty like hardened from the lifestyle. Crosby was pretty bloated, so was Piercy. No problem with DeMartini on that gig. He played and looked fantastic. I like this album. I didn't like it as much as the time. They brought in Jesmond Child as an executive producer and someone called Sir Arthur Payson to produce it. But I think this is a really, it's a good record. Amazing riff on Shame, Shame, Shame. Brilliant DeMartini riff. Love It and Use a Dirty Job. Great track. Scratch That Itch, One Step Away. Good. Hard Time, great track. Heads I Win, Tails You Lose, great backing vocal from Juan Crucier and that. And then you got All or Nothing. That's kind of Aerosmithy groovy. Very good. Can't Wait on Love. That's a really good rocker with some top DeMartini fills. Then there's a really commercial track of Giving Yourself Away, which I like, and it finishes with a killer track called Top Secret. DeMartini does an interesting sort of diminished 7 run, a bit like Randy Rhoads. Again, guitarists will know what I mean in that. He didn't usually do stuff like that. He plays on his neck pickup as well on this album. So he's getting that kind of bluesier thing. So it's a record I like a lot more now. It's definitely 7 and 8 out of 10, I just think they kind of peaked on those first 2 albums. They do an album in 99 called RATT on Portrait Records. So John Kolodner signs them along with Dokken around that time. But I don't like that album. It just doesn't sound like classic RATT. This album does. Their comeback album, 2010, Infestation. I've just looked. I didn't realise it's produced by Michael Basquette. That's a guy who does Alter Bridge, I think. Eat Me Alive, Best of Me, really good tracks. Things I can't read the tracks on the back. Sorry about this because it's the way the album's laid out. It's really annoying. And I'm just looking. Here we are. A Little Too Much. Yeah, it's good. What's the other one? Garden of Eden. Take a Big Bite. That's a great track. But Don't Let Go is one of my favourites. The last track. Yeah, they got in Carlos Cavazo from Quite Right on this, and he was a really good fit. And it's a 7 out of 10. This album, it was a good comeback. But then they fell out. Bobby Blotzer fell out with Stephen Piercy. They carried on. Juan Crucier came back, and Ron DeMartini's left now. And so it's just Stephen Piercy, Juan Crucier, and like some other guys. So whether I think we've heard the last of RATT, whether they do another album, I don't know. But anyway, it's all worth